You're live. Thank you. It's 8:36 and we are returning from executive session with no action taken.
Mr. Mayor, it is my honor to move that we hire Mr. Joshua Sampson to be our new operations manager at a rate of $58,000 per year, and he would begin work on February 20th.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. I'd like to welcome Josh aboard, and if you'd like to meet him, he's in the back of the room. You can welcome him on board after our meeting tonight. Welcome aboard, Josh. Okay, streetscape design discussion.
That would be Councilor Russ Reganera.
Okay.
So this is just a very short little mention that in the recent Rules and Ordinance Committee meeting, it became evident as we're trying to work on some sort of strategy to deal with what happens in the downtown area, on the sidewalks and the tree berms, trying to also address the fact that in the strategic plan, it was mentioned that the city of Elkins should officially adopt a streetscape design plan. What we have right now are sort of best practices. We have an informal streetscape vision that Elkins Main Street put together, but we have no plan that we have hired a consultant to put together that could advise the city on how sidewalks should be made, on any kind of design on tree berms. And the reason this came up was that we all have noticed that we have a huge assortment of street lamps in the downtown. We have 4 different types of street lamps. Sidewalks are in major disrepair, and right now we have it that even though it's not owned, the sidewalks are not owned by the businesses, they're responsible for replacement. So there's and if they do replace it, sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't. We should have a plan to deal with ADA regulations. We should have distance. There's just nothing, and there's starting to be a hodgepodge. Trees are being taken out, grass replaced with gravel. There's just no official streetscape plan. And when I looked at other cities, there are ordinances that have that the city owns the property, but the maintenance, like snow removal, that type of thing, is still done by the property owners. So there's issues that we want to move forward with, but without a plan, we can't do that. So what we are recommending is that we start the process of looking into how we can fund. It would be similar to what the Riverside consultants, that sort of process. We would have to go through the 5G process and then put it out for bid. But these that we just wanted to share that this was what we were thinking about, that we felt it was necessary to meet the goals of both Elkins Main Street and our own strategic plan, and be able to come up with some sort of enforcement strategy, because we can't enforce anything if we don't have it in code. So that's my little song and dance about that. But we didn't want anybody to be, oh, what is this all about? I don't know if Jessica has anything to...
No, it was just kind of my recommendation to Nancy and the Rules and Ordinance Committee that you kind of bring this to a full council to again, just relay that this is what the conversation was, and also to maybe gauge if the interest in pursuing an RFQ or an RFP. Haven't looked at any funding possibilities yet, or what that would cost. But that, I do think, I agree that that would be the next step to pursue this. Like, if you want to have some enforceable guidelines, you really need to have a master plan first to be able to look to. And that'll be a process, you know, of engaging with the community as well, to see what they want to see downtown, and understanding what you want the end result to be. But I think that's the
Right.
first step.
Yeah, and that definitely is part of it. I mean, when you put together the call for bids, yeah, a huge part of this would be getting buy-in from the downtown business owners and the residents themselves. I mean, when we did with Elkins Main Street, when I was really strongly involved, we had an open house on envisioning, and that was one of the things that came up often, was having some sort of unified plan. And you can see parts of it. We have, you know, matching benches, and the bicycle bollards are going to go up. We have the tree grates that are all trying to be all the same. But as far as the actual sidewalks and any other infrastructure, there's nothing. And so it's just becoming a hodgepodge. So I hope we have some buy-in on that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you. Okay, L, allocation of increase in healthcare insurance premiums. And I think Ms. Judy has some information on this?
Yes. So I've been notified that there's going to be a 5% increase in health insurance premiums effective July the 1st. And as I have mentioned in a past meeting, we have a 1% decrease in our retirement. So overall, what that's looking like, at least for the general fund, the increase could be $12,000 to $15,000 additional. My question is, especially for budget purposes, is the city going to absorb that? Will it be passed on to the employee? I need to have that decision so we know how to budget wages and things.
How much is that per employee? I mean, is that
It
based
really-
on
it-
their pay, or how does that work?
Well, it really varies based on what plan. It could be maybe $10 more taken out. Yeah, it just depends. Probably over 2 pay periods. But just kind of,
May I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
Tracy?
Yes, sir.
Is there an allocation now per employee, like the city pays this percent, the employee pays this percent?
There is a split. It's not an even split. And there's really not a set percentage. It's different if you have family coverage to if you have just a single coverage, or if you have employee and child. The most right now for the very best plan, and of course there's 6 or 7 different plans an employee can choose from too, so I'll use the most extreme. The very best plan that you can get for a family is, I think, $155.10 the employee pays monthly. The city pays on an annual basis for that plan about $9,000 per employee. How much was that, Tracy? About $9,000, a little over $9,000.
Just, would it not make sense that we as a city would say of the insurance cost associated with an employee, that the city would pay this percent and the employee would pay that percent, rather than not having a set amount? I mean, isn't that the way most organizations do it?
I don't know. I can just tell you this has been this way the 10 years I've been employed.
Right.
A single person for coverage could pay, probably no more than $30 a month, depending on the plan. Again, there's really a wide gap there.
But does that come down to a percentage, though, is how they're breaking it down?
The percentages are really odd, and I'd be happy to send that to you. I don't have those in front of you, but there's no, it's not like the city
Right.
pays 75%, the employee pays 25, no
Right.
matter what that, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
I have never figured out the rhyme and reason it's been done like this for
Okay.
10 years, unfortunately.
I mean, just to ask a question, I know that at one point when the city council was getting a small raise, we also, some of them took insurance policies. Is that still in place?
Yeah,
I
that
mean-
still was, and
Okay, and so how would that work even there? I mean, it seems.
Well,
very-
what you did is you passed an ordinance that allowed, because you get a
Yeah.
paycheck from the city, so
Exactly.
you're eligible for it. And at the time, there were some people that had an interest in that, and an ordinance was passed allowing that to happen. Now, I don't know how, obviously, the council members that have taken advantage of that fill out whatever paperwork, I assume, and give it to the payroll and benefits coordinator, and I have
Yeah.
no idea. But it gave you that option if that were your choice as a member of council, if you elected to do that.
And-
And other cities do that, too. I mean, that wasn't unique to Elkins. I know there are other cities that do that. And so that came up at, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Was that
And-
about when it was?
And I can tell you, if a council chooses that over pay, they pay the exact same premium
Right.
a city employee. We are not allowed to charge anything any different than we do any other city employee.
And again, it would depend with that person, what kind of
Yeah.
coverage they needed.
Correct,
If it
yeah.
was
Right.
single, family, or,
Right.
whatever.
So, yeah, so it seems like it's, would be difficult to figure all that out. It seems like it's not, it needs to be looked at a little more.
Councilor Chenoweth?
That's fine, but we're,
I've got a
Accountant around here.
question and maybe a recommendation or a comment. I guess,
Yes.
what's the expectation, because I'm sure healthcare premiums have gone up recently in the past couple of years. I mean, what have we done in the past?
we haven't passed anything on to the employees, I'd say probably for at least 5 years, maybe longer than that. I could look. We've been very fortunate when we've been estimating increases of 9, 12, because PEIA every year says this is where it's looking. They've held off. But this year, counties and municipalities are getting the premium increase, state employees are not, so.
Would it make sense, since the Personnel Committee's looking at the compensation study at a special call meeting on the 28th, to take this issue up and, I guess, study it a little bit? And talk about those things in tandem, since they're both affecting employee pay?
I think I'm fine with that, just with the understanding that council really needs to make a decision by that first meeting in March, because really nobody can do their budgets until we know
Right.
what those expenses are. Okay? So sooner than later, please.
So there'll be a council meeting that same week, right? Is the 28th a Monday, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have a council meeting that Thursday.
Right.
So if that committee, they had the information, they could make a recommendation to council for,
Yeah.
would that be enough time?
Well, you just, if it, yeah, we just need, those numbers will really set the basis for how everybody else
Does their budget?
does their budgets.
Here's what
Well,
we
I know
could
what's
do,
happening.
here's what we could do, though, is you could, for budgeting purposes, say, we're going to do X. We're gonna have the employees pick it all up, let's say, for budgeting purposes. Because it actually doesn't go in effect till July 1, is that correct?
That's correct, but if the employee, if we pass it on to the employee, we don't calculate that amount into our budgets, because that's coming.
Okay, then what we need to do then is to calculate it into our budget, and then if we make the decision that we're going to pick up part of it, then that just brings our budget down, but it still gives us a little more time to investigate the situation. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. And one thing that we usually we run up against this every year. obviously our budgets have to be into the state by the end of March. However, open enrollment isn't until April into May. So if employees change, let's say from a single to a family, there's probably a $6,000 difference there. You know, that's not budget, it's really kind of,
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about the
no,
date
sir.
changes.
But what you said, to budget it in,
Makes sense.
yes, sir,
Budget it
that
in.
would work.
That makes sense.
But the other way would not work.
Yeah, and that gives personnel time to take a look at it and make recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Down to mayor's comments tonight, and then we'll close this out. I'm actually very honored to announce that the Parks and Rec Commission last night announced that they have received an $845,000 endowment. And they are looking at areas within the parks right now that they can address this. That's a really good commission, so I'm sure they'll spend it wisely, but they were very excited about it.
What's that amount again?
$845,000.
A will, a testamentary gift.
Yes. So that is huge news. I'm honored to share that. I don't want to steal their thunder, so I'm sure they'll do a press release probably with Sutton on that. You'll see more in the future on this, but like I said, very exciting news there. I want to thank all the elected officials and our community partners that came out last week for the press release, or the press conference regarding the Davis Avenue Bridge. It was very well supported. We do understand that this is going to be a competitive time when it comes to the Bridge Formula Program. There's several bridges in our state that need addressed, so we're going to try to position ourselves to be as competitive as we possibly can for our citizens. We definitely need to address the bridge. There's federal funding coming, and I want to thank Jessica and her team for identifying this project and understanding that this is something that we've had conversations about for months now, about the situation with the bridge since we received our, I guess our report card is what I'll call it, our inspection results. So we're looking to position ourselves right now to be as competitive as possible and to make sure that we get a chunk of the money for our citizens and either repair or replace that bridge. And lastly, I want to say thank you to the Special Hiring Committee. This is, as I said earlier, this is the first time that I was on a board where everybody agreed on the top pick. We were very blessed to have so many good candidates. That's a nice problem to have. A lot of them were very local hires too. So, but like I said, I definitely feel we made the right choice with Josh. So Josh, welcome aboard, and you know, congratulations also on the little one. I hope she's doing well. So that's all I have tonight. So with that, unless there's any alibis, we can look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
We need to sign Chris's.
Something signal here.